we'll remember this time period fondly. We'll look back at this. Bitcoin trading at 26,000. We all know what's about to happen. We all know corporations going to adopt it. Wall Street's going to adopt it. We know the ETFs are coming. We know the capital is coming. We know everyone's going to wake up and figure this out, but they don't have the ability to buy it yet. So you know the future, but it has not manifested itself in the price. You're going to wish, for these days back, because these are the days where you can work in a job at McDonald's and you can make whatever X dollars an hour and go buy Bitcoin. And one day, you'll look back and say, I was actually making the equivalent of $8,000 an hour at McDonald's, right? And, if you actually are smart enough to work at McDonald's and buy Bitcoin right now, in 10 years, you're going to realize it was the most lucrative thing you did your entire life.
Michael Saylor believes that the writing is on the wall. We can all see the tsunami of institutional money that is about to come for Bitcoin, and for the first time in history, we have the opportunity to front-run it. In his latest interview, Saylor breaks down why he has so much conviction that Bitcoin is going to 100x and the major catalysts as to why. Saylor believes that the coming spot Bitcoin ETF is inevitable, and he's already looking forward to the next major catalyst. He believes that it will be major banks embracing Bitcoin. First, he argues they will become custodians, and then they will begin offering financing and collateral for Bitcoin. Make sure to stick around to the end of the video where Saylor gives his advice to Bitcoin investors and makes a case as to why the most lucrative thing you can be doing right now is stacking BTC. Also guys, if you want to stay most up to date on the crypto world, I send out a daily 5-minute crypto newsletter that covers expert predictions, on-chain data breakdowns, and breaking news all for free. Click the first link in the description, enter your email, and join over 15,000 others to become a better crypto investor right now. Now here's Michael Saylor on the next Bitcoin catalyst.
Right, spot ETF is first on your checklist. Fair value accounting is second on your checklist. And then the embrace of companies like Deutsche Bank and Santander and JP Morgan and Bank of America and the like. That's third on the list. And I think as we start to see those banks step up and become custodians, first they'll be custodians, then they will actually begin offering financing and collateral and accept Bitcoin as collateral. And then you'll start to see a whole set of Bitcoin derivatives and new products. Instead of just pure Bitcoin, you might see Bitcoin integrated with fixed income offerings, Bitcoin with volatility hedging. You might see Bitcoin-backed insurance plans, Bitcoin-backed bonds, all sorts of other Bitcoin-backed securities that'll be banked. And that will eventually ripple. So with regard to sovereigns, we already know some sovereigns are buying Bitcoin and they're mining Bitcoin. We've seen announcements from El Salvador, from Oman, from Bhutan, right, from the Emirates. And so that's spreading. But I think that'll continue to spread. But the next probably big support will come from sovereign wealth funds. And the sovereign wealth funds, first they'll take positions via the spot ETFs. And then they'll take positions via other companies, right? As companies embrace Bitcoin and put it on their treasury. Look, if Apple Computer just stopped dividending out their stock or stopped dividending out their cash flows and just started buying Bitcoin with their cash flows, the nature of the company changes, right? And any company that's a cash cow that starts accumulating assets in Bitcoin becomes one part power company, one part Bitcoin company, one part software company, one part Bitcoin company. And the degree to which you're a Bitcoin company versus a food company or an ice cream company or a real estate company just comes down to the portion of your enterprise value, which is based upon the P&L versus the portion of your enterprise value, which is based on your balance sheet, right? And Berkshire Hathaway is an example of a company where a lot of it's based on its balance sheet. For example, substantially all of the success of Berkshire Hathaway is due to an investment in Apple stock in the past 10 years. And the returns of Apple stock for Berkshire Hathaway dwarf every other decision made in the last 50 years. Like nothing else that Berkshire Hathaway did mattered except to the extent that it allowed them to make the Apple investment. And so that, you could think of them as like a big tech stock in a way because they reoriented their balance sheet to one big tech asset, Apple. I think we'll see the same with regard to corporations and investors with Bitcoin. And countries typically are the most conservative, so it'll be the small countries. It'll be the nimble operations. It'll be the El Salvadors and the Madeiras and the Bhutans and the UAEs and the Omans. They'll move first. And the large countries, they'll be more conservative for good reason. They don't have to move, right? And they'll take their time getting there. But that's why you should think about this as coming in layers and waves. The first layer, the second layer. The next step will be gold funds that own a bunch of gold will sell half their gold and buy Bitcoin with it. And then hedge funds that have no Bitcoin will allocate 1% and then 5% and then 10%. And then companies that have no Bitcoin will allocate 5% and 10%. And, there's this joke, right? Maybe it's Einstein said it. The reason we need time is so that everything doesn't happen all at once. So it's, you might be frustrated it's not happening too fast, but you don't want it to happen too fast, right? If it happened too fast, Bitcoin would go. If I said to you, guess what? Everybody watched Michael Saylor's talk and everybody on Wall Street agrees with him. And so they all bought Bitcoin. Tomorrow morning, you would wake up and Bitcoin would be $8 million a coin. And what would you think? You would think, dang, I should have bought more. I wish it didn't happen so fast. You don't want it to happen that fast. Right now, we're in this very ideal situation. We'll remember this time period fondly. We'll look back at this. Bitcoin trading at 26,000. We all know what's about to happen. We all know corporations going to adopt it. Wall Street's going to adopt it. We know the ETFs are coming. We know the capital is coming. We know everyone's going to wake up and figure this out, but they don't have the ability to buy it yet. So the future, but it has not manifested itself in the price. You're going to wish, for these days back, because these are the days where you can work in a job at McDonald's and you can make whatever X dollars an hour and go buy Bitcoin. And one day, you'll look back and say, I was actually making the equivalent of $8,000 an hour at McDonald's, right? And, if you actually are smart enough to work at McDonald's and buy Bitcoin right now, in 10 years, you're going to realize it was the most lucrative thing you did your entire life. And when everybody else embraces these big three ideas, when the banks custody Bitcoin, when the spot ETF is here, when companies are using Bitcoin in their treasury, then that opportunity is lost to you. Instead of buying Bitcoin at 25,000, you're buying Bitcoin at $1 million. And here's the way you should think of it. You're taking a 40x pay cut. You see, whatever you're making right now, it's going to be worth 40x less. So take what you're making right now, multiply by 40. That's what you get paid, right, in fiat in order to use Bitcoin as a treasury asset and keep one foot in the fiat world, because you understand the future, but the rest of the world, 99% of the world, hasn't caught up with you. And I guess what I'm saying is, I think they all know, right? I mean, a lot of them know. Some of them don't, but a lot of them know. But I sat with a guy's got $1 trillion in capital under management, and he couldn't buy the Bitcoin even if he wanted to. He couldn't, because he doesn't have the accounting systems, the on-ramps, the regulatory wrapper. So there are people out there that have more money than you that may actually perceive the same thing you perceive. They can't buy it yet. You should count yourself lucky if you actually have the ability to acquire it right now, right? Because you jumped through the hoops, you got KYC'd on a crypto exchange, because you've got a relationship, right? You have an advantage. The advantage is for a window of time. It will actually never be this good again, in my opinion. That's the challenge that all of us face. If you stay focused on Bitcoin, stay cheerful, stay constructive, don't let the trolls distract you, right? Like, someone wants you to basically sell all of your worldly goods, because, the world is coming to an end because of too much something in the atmosphere in 100 years. Don't get distracted by someone that wants you to change the code, change the protocol. There's nothing wrong with Bitcoin, right? The issue is, what's wrong with you? Do you have your head screwed on straight? Are you focused? Are you doing everything you can do? Bitcoin doesn't need your help. You need to help yourself. And so I think my message to the audience is, focus on what you can do for Bitcoin, right? Focus on how you're going to embrace the protocol. You're either a buyer or an investor, that's good, or you're an advocate, that's good. If you're using your fame, your power, your money in order to further the Bitcoin ecosystem with humility, respecting Satoshi, respecting the protocol, respecting the work done by people before you, right, then you're going to be successful and happy. I think the people that are fighting it, right, the people working on the next Bitcoin, the people that are trying to fix it, I think they're just squandering their life's energy. They're not going to be successful. They're not going to be happy, right, because the writing is on the wall here. And the great irony is Bitcoin is poised, for 100x from here. And you have all the information to figure it out. And so if you're jaded, if you're fatigued, if you're bored, if you've decided to move on to the next thing, if you're trading altcoins to get more Bitcoin, if you're juggling razor blades, if you're fighting with people on Twitter to try to fix Bitcoin, you've lost the plot. The great tragedy would be after 15 years, Bitcoin emerges, take its rightful place in the universe as the humanity's first and only sound money, and finally reach that point, you get distracted and went off to do something else. I would say focus on Bitcoin. Put the laser eye